Welcome back for another video. With Gameweek 29's fixtures and blanks locked in, there's lots to think about this week. In this one we're going to run through the best players to transfer in by position. There's two paths everyone's following right now. Path 1 is building towards a Gameweek 29 team and not using a chip, and the other one is using a chip, whether it's the free hit in Gameweek 29 or wildcard in Gameweek 27 or 28. So we're going to dig into the best moves for both routes here. So here's the up-to-date fixture ticker. In Gameweek 28, Bournemouth and Luton have got double game week, just those two that double. In Gameweek 29, 12 teams will blank, which is sorted in the Gameweek 29 column here. The 8 teams that don't blank are Villa, Brentford, Burnley, Fulham, Luton, Forest, Spurs and West Ham. So quite simply, if you're not using a chip in the next few weeks, it's as straightforward as buying the best players that are going to be involved in Gameweek 29. Unlike some past seasons, there's no optimal chip strategy and it's very much team dependent. The FA Cup went exactly as expected, surprisingly, and we've got a huge number of blanks. So if you've ended up with 2 or 3 players for Gameweek 29, then in that scenario it's clear that a wildcard in Gameweek 27 or 28, or free hit in Gameweek 29 makes sense. So let's start off with the goalkeeper projections, and it's right up this week, projected 4.5 points with Arsenal travelling to Sheffield United for a game on Monday. Now Arsenal are one of those teams that blank in 29, so only consider picking him up if you plan to use a chip. Looking at the next 5 Gameweeks projections, Neto's top in the league, and that's due to his double coming in 28. Neto is the most logical keeper to pick up if you're going to free hit in Gameweek 29, because they've got Burnley this week and then the double. That's going to be my chip strategy, free hit 29, so next week Neto's joining my team. If your goalkeepers aren't in a good spot this week, it's perfectly fine to bring that transfer forward a week, since Bournemouth have got Burnley. Or if you're looking to wildcard in Gameweek 28, then Rya's the logical pick, as he's the keeper top of the Gameweek 27 projections as a 1 week pick. And lastly, if you're on the path of using no chip, then Kaminski's the one. It's not the best fixture this week, home to Villa, but Luton do double in 28 and they don't blank in 29, so Kaminski at least ticks all boxes there. If you own a keeper that makes this table, then you can delay the Kaminski transfer a week, since they're expected to do better than Kaminski this week. So let's have a look at the top defenders. Unsurprisingly, after seeing Raya top of the goalkeepers, it's the Arsenal backline in the top 4, Gabriel, White, Saliba and Kiwior. A quick note on Kiwior first, he's been very good recently and he scored against Newcastle and a further 2 assists across his last 4 games. However, he does have Zinchenko for competition, so he's a risky pick. If you've got the money, then Saliba and Gabriel are the much better picks right now. White also has Tomiyasu for competition, so they might share minutes at some point. Trippier is projected 4.1 points and a really solid 1 week pick if you plan to wildcard next week. They're home to Wolves, who've just lost Cunha and now Hwang, and it looked like he picked up a hamstring injury in the FA Cup. O'Neill said that he's going to be very surprised if he makes this weekend's game. So as far as the best defenders to see you through Gameweek 29, Van de Ven makes the table here with 3.5 points, Spurs are home to Palace this week. It should be noted as well that Udogi's back in training, while Porro's not yet. Udogi an extra 0.5 mil over Van de Ven, with more attacking threat. But if you like a cheap player to get you through the next few weeks, then Van de Ven's perfect for 4.4 mil. In Gameweek 29 they're away to Fulham. Avoid Davies and Emerson, who've only been getting minutes due to Udogi and Porro's injuries. Given it's a home game for Luton and Doughty's attacking threat, he's one to consider if you're building towards a Gameweek 29 team with a chip saved. He's got 1 goal, 7 assists this season and he's 4.6 mil. Brentford are away to Burnley in Gameweek 29, which is a nice fixture, but it's not a good entry point for the Brentford defence this week. They've got Chelsea and then Arsenal before Gameweek 29. Reguilon looks the best of the bunch, only 4.4 mil. He's got a couple of assists since joining on loan, and he takes some set pieces and corners. It's not the worst entry point for a Villa defender, but the question is which one. Alex Moreno may or may not get rotated at some point for Digne in the coming week, so it's a slightly risky pick, but he's got massive upside. Powell went off injured half-time last match, Diego Carlos is injured, Conce's back in training this week, but he might be eased in, Cash could start again. So as far as the Villa defenders, delaying a week looks sensible. Emerson needs a mention, after he got his biggest score of the season last match with 1 goal 1 assist against Brentford for a 12-pointer. West Ham are one of those 12 teams that don't blank in Gameweek 29, and the next 3 fixtures are Everton, Burnley and then Villa. Villa in Gameweek 29 not the best fixture, but he's another solid option for 4.4 mil. Moving on to the midfielders, and Saka's top, projected 7.2 points. He's in the form of his life at the moment, scoring 8 in his last 7 games, and he does have captaincy potential this week. However, in second is Son with 6.7 points, and he is the more logical pick if you're not using a chip to navigate Gameweek 29. Richarlison makes the table as well, but there are rumours of a potential injury, and he's not trained since the Wolves game in Gameweek 25. It's something to be mindful of. It would equate to Son playing striker, which would make him an even better pick. He'll probably be the most captain player in Gameweek 29 as well, so he's someone to try and plan for if you can't get him this week. For the Manchester derby, Foden and De Bruyne are projected 5.4 and 5.3 points. There's every chance that De Bruyne starts against Man United, as it's a massive game and bragging rights for the rest of the season, so it's one to weigh up if you're looking to sell him for Son. And he did just assist 4 of Haaland's 5 goals in the FA Cup midweek, but as far as the Gameweek projections, it's a perfectly fine move, with Son 1.4 points ahead of De Bruyne this week. De Bruyne's projections are based on 72 predicted minutes though. If he plays 90, as he did midweek versus Luton, then he'd be on 6.3 points, which makes it very close. Pep does have the luxury of being able to rest him against Copenhagen in the Champions League next week if he wants to, given they're 3-1 up on aggregate and they're playing at the Etihad. If you haven't got the money for Son and you're looking for a short-term play, then Ødegaard's perfect for that. He's projected 5.7 points against Sheffield United, who've conceded 66 goals after 26 game weeks, 8 more than anyone else. So Douglas Luiz, Bailey and Bowen all smashed it last game week. They don't make the table this week, but if you're building towards a Gameweek 29 team, then all 3 are still great to pick up. These are the types of players that the Gameweek 29 free hitters are going to be picking up, so a sound strategy is to cover as many as possible to minimise your potential rank loss. Bowen's my favourite of the 3. He and West Ham in general are much better with Paqueta, who returned from injury last match. That was his first minutes since Gameweek 19. Bowen's points in his last 5 games with Paqueta are 26, 8, 8 and 2. Douglas Luiz, the safer pick from the 2 Villa mids, nailed on to play 90 minutes every week, while Bailey rarely does, and he takes set pieces and penalties. His heat map can look uninspiring at times, similar to someone like Gross, who still has plenty of routes to points and a central player to the team. A quick note on Maddison. He's not done a huge amount since coming back from injury, but he's still getting into his groove perhaps. He's got 2 assists in 4 games. He's got every chance of becoming an excellent transfer though. Over the next 5 game weeks here, he's 3rd on the table for midfielder projections. We'll see him in lots of free hit teams, which speaks volumes to his appeal. Before his injury, he was ticking along very consistently with 2 goals and 6 assists in 10 games, 8 returns in 10, at a rate of 6.3 points per game. And moving on to the forwards then. Haaland tops the table with 7.5 points, which places Saka second with 7.2 and then Son on 6.7. Haaland expected to be the most captain player this week against the Man United side, missing several key players. Man City can't afford to drop points, trailing Liverpool by 1 point currently, and Arsenal 1 point behind them. Haaland of course playing home off the back of putting 5 past Luton midweek in the FA Cup. Watkins is second on the strikers table this week with 5.8 points. An all-round good player to target with your transfers if you've not got him. Even ignoring the Gameweek 29 fixture, he's the top scoring player in the game currently for points. Though if you've got Haaland, Solanke and Tony for example, then it's probably not worth switching around, unless of course Solanke's got a longer term injury. So regarding Solanke, all we know at the moment is he missed the midweek FA Cup game with a knee problem. Iraola said he didn't feel comfortable, they didn't want to take any chances, and Solanke's had an MRI scan on it. We should hopefully get more news by the deadline. Beyond Haaland, Watkins, Tony and Solanke, there's not many other forwards leaping out right now. Let's say if Solanke's injury does rule him out of Gameweek 28, then some budget forwards might emerge like Semenyo and Morris, who could be appealing picks given they double in 28. Thanks very much for watching. If this was helpful, hit subscribe and drop the video a like. See you soon for the next one.